Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to my little channel. A little about me. I'm a car guy through and through. I've owned many performance cars, a couple sport bikes, lots of stuff. And today I'm going to give you my standpoint on the Model 3, what it means for Tesla, upsides, potential pitfalls, from a car guy's perspective. And be forewarned, I'm not the authority on anything. I'm just a guy that likes technology and fast cars. So I think combining the two is awesome. All right, so I'm also doing this because I have a few followers now, and hey, you know what? Maybe people want to hear my thoughts on something. I don't know, getting a little popular. It'd be kind of fun to get back a little bit. But now, just to get into things, there's a lot of hype around the Model 3, and it finally came out officially for the first 30 owners. And maybe I'm ignorant, but it essentially looks the same as the one Elon had for himself that he's been driving around in. And it's also the same one people have been taking photos of over the last year or so. I see virtually no difference. I mean, was I supposed to? I don't really know. I've been kind of out of the loop as to the whole Tesla reveal. It seemed like they were already available for, not available for purchase, but we've already seen the one Elon was driving in, and I wasn't really sure if I should expect a different version or, maybe different body lines as to the actual production model. But it all looks the same, so I wasn't really, all that excited. But because I knew what it was going to look like. The exciting part was seeing more of the interior and hearing some more specs, as well as pricing. But I think it looks like an oddly proportioned Model S. I mean, it looks like they shortened the Model S, but they're still using the same doors from the Model S. But you know what? I think it's still a good looking car. I wouldn't kick it out of bed. It's definitely a little odd, kind of quirky and funky looking. And I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious how people do an analysis of the outside of a car, talking about the sculpted lines and the curves. And in my opinion, it looks like a car. I can't go in that in depth because, honestly, my mind can't go that deep. But there's lots of hints of the Model S in the car, especially the rear quarter panel window. It looks like it's directly from a Model S, and the same with the side view mirrors. It's definitely not a bad thing. It's a good looking car, and I understand why they do the same side mirrors thing to cut down on costs. But I think the only thing I personally have a hard time getting over is the front. I would almost put a small piece of black circular vinyl in the front so it breaks up all the solid color. Almost reminiscent of a car that has a front air dam opening. I guess I'm just conditioned to need that after having several cars with a front opening. But I get it. Tesla's showing off the fact that it doesn't need a air cooling for their cars. So they could keep it pretty flat. Actually, that's a lie. They need air to cool the tiny little radiator they have. But moving on to the interior, damn. Okay, did IKEA design this? I mean, I like the simplicity, but there's much less to clean, which is good. However, I think it's almost too simple. It kind of looks like it looks like the concept cars from the 80s. Google search concept car from the 80s, and it's like, remember in the 80s when they tried to go ultra simple, like, hey guys, let's remove all the buttons from the inside of the car and see what happens. It's kind of like that. So I'm not 100% sure about how I feel about the interior. Again, I never sat in one. The simplicity might be cool. I might change my mind. And it has this giant screen displaying lots of information, and this puts everything at the right. And this started most recently with Mini Coopers and the Toyota Yaris interiors. So it's like, okay, wow, we're doing this again. All right, but remember, Minis and Yaris's didn't have this display of that much information. It only had the speedometer and maybe a couple of things, but Tesla is essentially putting a lot of the vital details to the car, actually all the vital details to the car, immediately to the right of the driver, as opposed to splitting up between the instrument cluster and the touchscreen display. So hey, you know what? Maybe it'll grow on me. Maybe Tesla knows better than I do. And after thinking about it, the only time I look at my instrument cluster, I guess, is to see how fast I'm going. So hey, maybe they're onto something with that large screen to the right. But I think a heads-up display would be cool on the windshield. Um, I think that'd be kind of neat. I think that would be pretty beneficial to keep driver focus somewhat straight, as opposed to looking slightly to your right every time you wanted to check something, or turn on the heated seats or change the radio station. So, a quick side note: Can we discuss the fact that you'll have to use your phone to work the car and it'll have a secondary card for valet? So, what does this mean for the salvage guys? This means that unless you have the keys, you'll have to go to Tesla for reprogramming. There's no physical key, so I'm not sure how to link the phone to the car. Does Tesla have to do that? I don't know. This is getting kind of interesting. Um, but anyways, okay, 5 minutes of ranting. Let's get to the real business here, the real stuff about where I see Tesla is going and what we can do to help speed things along. But people want a lot from this car. But the thing is, this car has limitations. Okay? The big takeaway from the event was that the actual range of the Model 3 ended up being 210 to 220 miles for the base car. So for 35K, you get 210 miles of range, but you don't get it anytime soon because that car will be the car for next year. The 300 plus range cars will be about 44 grand, and I think that's what triggered everyone. They thought they'd have a car for cheap that got crazy range for under 35K, but in reality, you'd have to spend more. So I get that frustration for sure. The other frustration is that the cheaper one will not be available first, and they'll start rolling out the 44 grand ones first. So then the 35K ones later, so that people are mad. People are just mad because they won't have the cheaper ones right away. That's what it boils down to. And from a business standpoint, I get that. I get that. If if Tesla rolls out the 35 grand one first, and people have been waiting a long time for this car, they may forego the more expensive one, and they'll just buy the standard Model 3 just to have it now and not get the better one later. So, as it's been stated before, consumers will likely more buy something in front of them than to wait for something later. So if the 35K comes out now, essentially people would just buy them. A lot of the times they wouldn't hold out the following year for the higher trim level. And it's similar to what Porsche does. They roll out the S versions first and then the base models later. And it's Tesla's just kind of pushing the higher priced and delivery preference to the high cost revenue products. So it makes sense. The 35K one's coming. Don't worry about it. Now, with the comments on YouTube and Facebook, what have you, they're asking how long does it take to charge, and they're asking, well, it takes a while to charge. Now, I'll tell you right now, I have one. I have a Model S, and if you're on empty with a 110 volt outlet in your garage, it's going to take you damn near 2 days to fully charge it, maybe more. And if you have a 240 volt, it would take about 8 hours for a full charge, and which isn't bad, but to a lot of people that's a lifestyle change. They have to plan around things, and lots of people don't want to have to plan anything. They just want to get into the car and go. And I get that because I'm very similar. I want to hop in the car, go, not have to plan my trip around superchargers. And the wife and I are planning a trip with the kids. And some hotels, I'm looking at them like, okay, wow, is there a supercharger near these hotels? Where the charging points are on the route. Does the hotel have charging inside? Can I throw a cable out the window and charge the car? And I have two kids in the car, and they're both pretty upset. So everything has to be now, now, now. There's not really much time to negotiate, a further path than to my destination if I have two screaming kids in the car, because all that logic goes out the window once they get upset. And people are also saying, hey, you know what? I can't jump in the car and drive randomly for 6 hours straight with nowhere to go. Well, forget that. I don't want the Model 3 anymore. And that's like my favorite thing is that they call the Model 3 a piece of junk because it doesn't fit their specific lifestyle, even though they have never, ever done that. They've never just jumped in the car and drove 6 hours randomly. They call the Model 3 junk because it can't do it. So it's like, I know I'll never do this, but because the car can't do this thing that I could theoretically do if I wanted to, it can't, so I hate it. So those are the worst kinds of people. Um, And the people that take those spontaneous 300-mile road trips, a lot of them complain too and say, well, I can't even go on vacation with the car. But people fail to realize that you can charge the car. It's not going to explode after its rated mile range is up. You plug it in, you charge it, you plan accordingly, and you move forward. Um, but again, it's a lifestyle change. People don't want to factor in the 30-minute charge after a long trip, and also factoring the time going to superchargers that aren't en route could add up to the time as well. Um, the funny thing is that if you go back 4 years, people said the Model S is too expensive, and you give me an electric car that looks good, that goes 200 miles on a charge for 35 grand, and I'll buy it. Well, guess what? It's here. And what are people doing? They're still complaining. And they keep changing it. They're like, oh, wait, I said 200 miles last year. I mean, I want 500 miles. When in reality, they're probably only going to drive at a distance of no more than 100 miles or 200 miles or so. But I think those expectations are definitely interesting. Now, the last comments are the most popular, and a lot of them are saying, "Hey, I drive a pickup truck and I get my parts at Walmart, $50 each, and I get 500 miles of range." Or when I'm vaping in my stance, Jetta, I get 350 miles per tank, and it takes me 5 minutes to fill up, etc., etc., etc. I get that. So I'm analyzing all these complaints, and the last two I think are somewhat valid, and here's the reason why. Um, Here's my question to you all. Now, feel free to comment, but who is Tesla's target audience? Okay, so I know they're on a whole worldwide spread and they want to have EVs in the hands of everyone, but initially they were people who made over 100 grand a year, and with the Model 3, that demographic is changing to people who make 40 to 50K a year. That's cut in half. So why do people buy Teslas? Because that redneck in the pickup truck has made a pretty interesting argument. If you had 35 grand right now cash, would you buy a Model 3? And why? Is it the environment? Because I'm willing to bet you the average person isn't buying the car because of environmental impact. I think a lot of people are, but I think most are not. Now, I didn't buy mine to save the environment. I bought it because it looks cool, the tech was awesome, it was futuristic, and it was really quick. But the thing is, there's other competition out there too. Remember, the 35 grand competition is the Audi A3, the BMW 3 Series, the ILX Acura, the Mercedes, whatever, the CLA, and the Volts. Those are the 35 grand competitions that Tesla's facing right now. And hear me out. At that price point, you'll have people that may not own a home. They may live in a condo. Where are you going to charge it? You're going to run an extension cord from out your window? You're going to use a supercharger? Okay, cool. Is there a supercharger near you? Will your condo allow level 2 charging? There's definitely a lot of questions here on this topic. Now, if you make 100 grand a year, it's a different demographic than a guy that makes 40 grand a year. If you make 100 grand a year, you likely have more than one car, so it's not a huge issue. It's like, okay, I'll take my Panamera today because I forgot to charge my Tesla. A lot of the people that make under 100, sometimes they may live in an apartment, and I was saying before, it could be difficult because you live in an apartment, but you also don't have access to charging. There's no external charging cable, so you really have to plan. You really have to plan ahead. So the thing is, the competition now is not other electric cars. It's other cars. The average consumer doesn't want to save the planet. They want a good-looking car for a good price that doesn't need much effort or little learning curve. And it's interesting, I've had to the magnitude of probably 50 people ask me about the Tesla and how to charge it, where it charges, does it take gas? Does it take gas? The car's been out for 5 years, and you're literally asking me if it takes gas. It's very interesting, But just the last part of this podcast was just I just kind of wanted to state my case, but here's what I think has to happen. Okay, here's what I think Tesla has to do. One, they have to start marketing the product, not marketing. No, sorry, not selling, but marketing it. General user education. Like my mom should know about these cars and how easy they are to operate. Easing user sentiment, and maybe throw one in a mall or something. Knock on some doors. Hey, see these cars? Yeah, they're all right. Not bad. How try one? You know, um, Two, they're opening more superchargers, but I don't see them opening up several new repair facilities because let's be honest here, the current facilities are jammed up with Tesla manufacturing needs, and it's taking up to a month for body work. So basically, if I bring my Model 3 in for repair 2 years from now, that they've made 500,000 of these things, where's the backlog? Um, Three, they need to fix quality control that plagued the Model S and Model X in the early stages. Some X's still have door alignment issues. Heck, some S's do too. And I think it wouldn't be in the best interest if the Model 3 had those issues. Four, they got to nail it. You know, I'll tell you one thing. What Tesla did right, they made a product that people want and believe in. To say other manufacturers aren't low-key jealous of Tesla is a lie. Before Autopilot, what manufacturer had any self-driving ability besides maybe adaptive cruise? Maybe Google, the Google cars driving around. But before that, I don't think there was one. And even if there was one, many of you guys never heard of it because Tesla just crushed it. There's a bunch of other companies that want a piece too. There's ProPilot, Active Lane Control, Copilot, Distronic Plus, just stuff like that it's kind of falling by the wayside in its older brother's shadow. Um, it's gonna be like that thing where, if you want to blow your nose, you say, "Hey, pass me a Kleenex," but Kleenex is the brand, and once people started confusing those things, it definitely took a turn on the marketing aspect. So what's going to happen is people are going to start referring to the other driving aids like active lane control as Copilot almost because that's how, sorry, autopilot almost because that's how it was presented to them. That's how they know it as. And I think it could get pretty interesting. Um, but anyways, also number five, I think when people start getting them, it's going to be and an EV ball game. The it's going to be the autopilot in the hands of hundreds of thousands of people. Um, was it's going to be very very interesting for sure. Right now we have autopilot in the hands of thousands, tens of thousands that actually use it. So when we multiply that by a large magnitude, we're going to run into some issues for sure. So, when you have even more people using it, especially at a lower, more affordable entry price, people are going to start screwing this thing up left and right. I just know it for a fact. They're really going to give Model 3/Tesla owners a bad name. They'll be like the new Mustang drivers of our era, you know? Um, and lastly, what can we do? Now, we can stop being stupid. I have yet to. I have an autopilot car, but when you're using it, you have to be responsible. Stop beating your kids while driving. Stop falling asleep at the wheel. The more the car's in the news for positive, the better off it is. So just stop doing the dumb stuff. Pay attention to the road. It was the worst. My father-in-law practically begged me not to drive a car with autopilot because all of the crashes that he heard of. So it just be responsible. We don't want to keep pushing that stereotype. Um, but yeah, just closing thoughts. I mean, I thought that I think the Model 3 is a good looking car, but in order to succeed, Tesla's gonna have to tear down a couple walls here. They're gonna have to tear down the distinction between a car buyer and an electric car buyer. So I think we need to educate, educate, educate. You know, people still think Teslas are hybrids. Let them know what's going on is going to be an adjustment, you know, for charge playing. But guess what? Look at the fuel savings. People love saving money. Look at the maintenance cost versus any other manufacturer, maybe a 3 Series. You know, hey, this car syncs with your phone. That's pretty cool, right? You know, the more people that buy these vehicles, the better the technology is going to get. And we're going to look back at this video one day and say, hey, remember when electric cars came out and they only had 300 miles of range? Well, someday when they get to 500, all right, I think the tech can get us there. We just need the people to keep buying the electric cars to fund future improvement and progress. You know, I think we need to get other manufacturers on board and speak and spark competition because yeah, it's healthy for a market as a whole, you know. But anyways, that's my opinion. I think Tesla's doing a great job. They're a young company. They have a lot to learn. I want them to succeed. And that's it. Well, just my opinion. Hope you guys enjoyed my point of view. I didn't want to make this too long, but check out my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Talk to y'all later.